and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We're back here to talk more TNA and Impact Wrestling shenanigans and going on in the world of TNA and Impact. And hello there to everyone. This is one of the first videos that we're doing here as a video style of podcast. It will be somewhat available later. Unfortunately, the amount of time that we get on the podcast right now is pretty short, so I want to just do more content here on the YouTube until we can sort of earn a bit more money so that we can sort of reach more time on that podcast to get more stuff out there. And if you do want to help us out, please subscribe. Please go over onto the podcast, help us out, grow our numbers so that we can bring you more of this style of content. I want to roll the dice and see how we go, so we will wait and see how we go. But for today, we are going to be having a bit of a dive into the new president of TNA and what it means going forward. Alright, so this here is Anthony Ciccone. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing his last name. I don't really care how to pronounce his last name, honestly. I know some people are going to say, oh, it's pronounced like this, but tomato, tomato, potato, potato. Some people are going to say it one way and some people are going to say it another way. I could use Google voice thing and get it to pronounce it, but I really don't care how this guy's name is pronounced at the end of the day, because again, like, somebody else is going to say, oh no, it's pronounced like this, and you know, like, again, I'm just not going down that rabbit hole of no, it's pronounced like this, no, it's pronounced. No, I don't care how it's pronounced. Like, unless he says it himself, it's pronounced like this, or whatever his mum says it's pronounced like this, then I'm not going to listen to how it's pronounced. I don't really care. But anyway, this is the new head of TNA Wrestling, the president, as of now in TNA. And I'm freaking pissed about the way that all of this went down. I want to vent about how all of this went down. I was saying this on Twitter and things like that about how this was handled and things like that. And like, maybe I don't have all the details on the whole Scott getting fired thing, and perhaps I'm a bit of a Scott fan, but the thing is, like, the whole idea for me is if it's not broke, don't fix it. Scott was doing a good job, a very good job. He just had a very big success, and now they're just like, oh, bam, you're fired. Like, and the main reason he was fired, from what we've gathered in the last few weeks and whatnot, has been said to be basically that he wanted to grow the company, wanted to have a bigger budget. And the main reason, like, Jeff Jarrett left back in 2018, I believe it was. Maybe it was late 2017. I'm not too sure exactly when he left. Was due to the same reason. He was trying to negotiate and say, well, what is my budget? Where is my budget? Like, you're not even giving me a budget. Please tell me how much money I can spend, because I don't want to spend more than what I'm allowed to, but I have to spend something. And the same here as for Scott. The main reason he got fired was because he was like, oh, I've got this idea. We can bring in Will Ospreay, and we can bring in Mercedes Moné, and we can bring in this person and that person and whatever, and we'll offer them big money, you know, to come in and wrestle for us, even if it's for a one-off, or, you know, Braun Strowman. We recently learned about that, you know, Braun for Glory and all of that. So, you know, we'll bring him in for one show and have him in a big main event match, you know, and that sort of thing, and then, you know, we'll see how it goes. You know, he probably won't stick around, but hey, you know, it's a big name coming in and doing something, you know, that's, you know, related to it. And as far as what we've been able to understand, Anthem has been like, no, we don't want to give you more money. If anything, we want to cut your budget. So, like, I think they valued him up to a point. I don't know specifics. Like, again, I don't think any of us do. I don't even think Scott does. Like, I think that he got, told this sort of very similarly, and whatnot, along with everyone else, that he's getting, canned, getting kicked out, and whatnot. And, it sucks because, like I say, Scott has been doing a great job for the last 6 years. It's been the main reason, like, I tuned back into TNA, was because it was like everything, like, pre-2016 was like it feels the same, or even like early mid 2016, 2017. I think it all felt like kind of the same. There was a lot of clouds over everything. There was a lot of like, oh, we don't know what's going to be going on. Billy Corgan was here and now he's not, and when Anthem was taking over, I think there was some optimism, but I think there was also just like, well, who's actually going to run the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month wrestling side of things? And like they were like saying, hey, we don't know SFA about wrestling, so we're going to get somebody to run this, or we're at least going to have it in the hands of the people that care about this and want to do it. And Scott, like the passion that Scott has, I love the passion that Scott has. I have the same passion for this place. Like he really actually rekindled the passion that I had for wrestling, because like I didn't watch wrestling for so long because there wasn't any wrestling that I wanted to watch. Like really, like WWE for years to me, like I stopped watching that like maybe a few months before I stopped watching TNA as well, but that's because Hogan and Bischoff and all that, they were basically making TNA like WWE light, and I didn't want to see that. So, like, there were some good things in that era, but still, like, yeah, that was main reason why I stopped watching it, but still, like, I watched TNA for a lot longer in that 2010 era, because like I was still hooked towards TNA, and I really had stopped watching WWE even in 2009. Like I was still watching the pay-per-views here and there and that, and some of the docos and things like that. But like I really stopped watching it like fairly quickly. Like I started watching it in 07, I think, or late 06, I think. Yeah. I think, or something like that, or late 05, 06, something like that. I watched basically when the John Cena was in the Elimination Chamber and saw Edge cash in on him. That was like one of the first like pay-per-views I watched. So I think one of the first matches that I saw was proper matches that I saw was like Edge and Shawn Michaels. I know that was like a month or two maybe before or something. I can't remember exactly. But like again, like that was like one of the first shows that I properly watched like end to end. Watched all out. And, was a bit of a fan. I watched Rey Mysterio win the Rumble. That was amazing. That was great. I didn't love how they presented that storyline, but this isn't about that. But again, like just like that angle of like seeing like what WWE was becoming, it became more centered on John Cena. And like you can have a headliner and have a main star like TNA has Josh Alexander, but you've got to position them right and you've got to utilize them right. And that's one of my main concerns about this new era as well, is like, are they going to know what to do? But then again, like hopefully they know their lesson from like all this stuff. Hey, we don't know sweet FA about wrestling, so let's leave it to the wrestlers. We're just going to, or the wrestling guys or whatever, let's just bring these guys on and let's just try to up our production and all that other stuff and whatnot on a fairly tight budget. That's okay. If they had have appointed this guy as co-president with Scott and said, hey, look, I'm going to work very closely with you and, we're going to, make things happen. I'm going to be right here in your ear all the time and or whatever, and helping you out with the budgets and making sure we're not going over, and I'm going to be reporting back to them and blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to be here to, liaise with the talent and whatnot to appear on some of the other access TV based programs and whatnot and all that sort of stuff. That would be great. Like, that would be totally fine. And I think they should have been doing that anyway a few years ago. But still, I think that doing that with some talent works well. I think Kazarian was on, like, Vinyl Obsession or whatever it was. And, like, Eric Young's on the next season, I think it is. I'm not too sure. I haven't really read too much of it. Yeah, like, just the way everything seems to be handled was very unprofessional. And again, we come back to consumer confidence. The more things stay the same, the more stagnant they are, but the more reliable they kind of are. And fans want that reliability. They want to know what they're going to get. Like, and I know that the writers and whatnot and producers in TNA and that are there or are still there, but I just think Scott brought a lot to the table. So I hope that everyone's kind of absorbed a lot of what Scott was putting out and teaching and that kind of thing, because those are some of those important lessons, just make sure that the entertainment value is there for those wrestling fans, and I'm one of them, like that's what I want. I know No Surrender's pretty much the first show that this guy's going to have any say in, and like we're going to have to wait and see what that pans out to be and how that kind of works out. I do hope it's a very hands-off approach from Anthem, and they are just sort of saying, well, I'm just here to liaise and say, hey, look, I know that this hasn't been a, great or a popular decision or whatnot, but, it's not my fault. I was just given this positional, and he's in a difficult position, so I understand that, or whatever, but, you have to understand why the fans are pissed, because we all are a family in a sense. We are TNA. TNA is us, and we are TNA. We all bleed together, we all live together. We all care about each other and support one another and whatnot and all of this sort of stuff. So, we are hard to kill. Like, that is us. Like, that is what we have been. We have been through the ringer. We have had to deal with the company being at its worst times and having to have other fans and whatnot, of everything else, basically WWE, most of the time, just pointing and laughing. And even when AEW started, people were like going, oh, look at this new promotion. It's already better than TNA. Oh, lol, or whatever, and things like that. Lol TNA, all the time and things like that. Meanwhile, TNA was going, you know what, we're just going to do the best of what we can and build ourselves up, and that's what they did. They did an amazing job, and Scott and the team did an amazing job to build TNA from the ashes, but the fans also did that. The fans were right there because they had that same passion and they'd seen everything, for those, 6-7 years or whatever it was, and then they saw this glimmer of hope coming in, and somebody who actually gave a shit and put in the time and put in the effort and booked that consistent wrestling. Because again, like there was never much wrong with like TNA's wrestlers and wrestling, and even storylines. There was some storylines that weren't a 10 out of 10 or weren't even great, like here and there and whatnot. And some storylines revolved around some people too much. And I know that some people say, oh, this or that about, Scott and his favorites and things like that. But, I don't see it like that. I don't really look at it like that, but I know some people kind of do. But, I think it's better from somebody who understands what wrestling is and having their favorites, because usually their favorites are going to be the most talented wrestlers. Who'd have thunk? So it is very trepidatious that we sort of step into this new era of TNA and to see what it brings us as fans and what it brings to the industry and whatnot and that sort of thing. If, like I said, it's just a more liaising role that Anthony here has, I think it's probably fine. I think he's going to get in the firing line of a lot of stuff, which isn't his fault 100%, but he has to understand that position. And like I've seen a few fans saying like negative things about him and saying all this negative stuff towards him and things like that. He doesn't really deserve that per se. Like I am pissed about it and that, but the thing is, like, you know, it's Anthem's fault. It's the whole board's fault. It's, you know, their decision making and whatnot that has led to this. And just the abruptness of it is just the thing that I think the fans are really, like, and even the wrestlers are really against. I certainly want Scott to come back. I don't know what capacity he can come back in, maybe as vice president or whatever, I don't know. Or as co-president, I don't know. But again, like the way that Anthems has been reported about and saying that we want to slash the budget and this and that, I don't know. Like, how can you slash the budget? Because and then how, if you are going to slash the budget, how are you going to get better production? Because better production costs more money. And that sort of thing. And bigger arenas cost more money. Yes, you can get a bigger return on bigger arenas, but wrestling doesn't just work off of you buy a bigger arena or rent a bigger arena and you fill it out. Like Tony Khan is proving that, and WWE has proven that, and even TNA has done that in the past, where they, you know, hired a bigger arena and whatnot and weren't able to fill it out. So it doesn't sell itself per se. You've got to have these good storylines that fans want to see the matches pay off of. And you've got to have these good matches to, you know, excite the fans. And you've got to have a bit of everything. You've got to have, and I know some people don't like comedy wrestling and this sort of wrestling and that sort of wrestling or whatever, flippy style wrestling or whatever it is. But you've got to have a bit of everything. You can't just go out there and go, oh, okay, well, these 5 people or whatever, these 10 people, or these 100 people don't like flippy shit wrestling, so we won't have any flippy shit wrestling. Oh, these 10 people, these 50 people, whatever, don't like comedy wrestling, so we can't have any comedy wrestling. If you don't have any of that stuff, then the show becomes incredibly boring because it's all just heavyweights, big men slapping meat, and that sort of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, if you take away the comedy and you take away the flippy shit, then what have you got left? You've got technical and you've got, like, big men slapping meat. Like, and then there's some people that don't like technical wrestling, I know, but still, there's fans of everything and there's people who don't like anything kind of thing, you know, like, they don't like this, they don't like that, whatever, you know, like, they don't like a potato, I don't know, like, they can't be pleased with basically anything. Oh, if it's not WWE, then I'm not interested. And if it's pretending to be WWE, then I'm not interested. So, you know, like, they're just never pleased, even when it's WWE. Oh, this is shit. Raw was shit last week, but next week I'll tune in or whatever. Like, I think that whole Triple H rant of, I'm going to tell my friend Mark and, you know, we're going to rally online and that sort of thing. It's very true and whatnot of wrestling fans. But again, it's one of those things, like, this is a thing that a lot of us wrestling fans were saying, no, this is a bit bullshit online and complaining about. And, you know, a lot of people threatened and a lot of people actually backed up by saying, hey, you know what? I just have signed off of TNA wrestling. You know, I'm not paying for a subscription until, like, you know, you fix this shit, you know, or whatever. So I haven't yet. I am hopeful, and I'm going to wait and see and let it play out, but, like, they're on a knife's edge to me, like, realistically right now. If they interject into TNA's business as far as what TNA does and where they're going. And, well, not like venues per se too much, but like if they interject in the actual TV product and whatnot, then that's where I have a problem. You know, like if they just like, okay, we don't like if they're doing stuff for the TV, like better production, blah blah blah, this and that and whatever else, that's 100% fine. I still don't see how they're going to do it on a leaner budget. They're already on a very lean budget, and their production's still pretty good. I know it's not the best, but it is still pretty darn good. It's better than any other promotion bar AEW and WWE. Like, so, like, and yes, it could be better, but still, like, you know, like on a budget, it can't be much better. You still have to pay up for better production, as I said. So I don't see how they're going to do that. If they're just there to liaise, again, I have no problem with that as long as it's optional, or as long as it's like, oh, you can come over here, or you've got the option to come over here, even if it's movies. I don't know whether they've got their own ideas to make movies. I know some people bemoan the WWE studios projects and that sort of thing. We could beline these projects if they start making films, but at the end of the day, who really cares as long as it doesn't really affect the wrestling on the TV? That's my concern. Like, if they make a bomb movie, then I don't really care. Like, that doesn't affect my enjoyment of the wrestling week to week, month to month, whatever. But that's their problem. They need to make whatever they're doing good, and like having somebody that's, you know, we're going to have you on the Power Hour or whatever it is. I don't know what shows they've got on except for like, you know, New Japan and Power Hour, because they promoted it a couple of times, and Invicta and things like that. Like, if they brought some of the TNA, like they brought one of the Invicta fighters over to TNA once. I can't remember who it was now. It was one of the champions at the time when Deonna Purrazzo was I think the champion, or the champ. And that, so I wouldn't mind seeing that. Like, I don't mind seeing some of these guys over at Invicta or wherever, which is basically Access TV's, you know, UFC. They brought in like years ago, and like it's funny that AEW is basically again copying TNA. The top team, UFC team from America. So, you know, that's there, and that does a thing and whatnot. But still, like, them bringing on these guys and that, or girls or whatever, like from these other shows or whatever, like, that's fine as well, as long as they're sort of just there in the background and not becoming the main stars, and realizing, hey, you've got to be a serious athlete to even think about stepping in that ring, and then you've got to really know what you're doing and got to be able to put on a heck of a show, because wrestling fans expect a lot. And if you surprise them and if you do a good job, then they'll applaud you, but they'll always expect you to have that high level of work. Look at Ronda Rousey. Like, I think that she was hindered a bit by some people over there and some circumstances, but I also think, like, perhaps there was the necessity of, like, well, you're signed for another year, so, you know, you've got to get back out there. And she was like, begrudgingly, okay, well, I'll get back out there, but I'm going to phone it in a bit, you know, whatever, and things like that. So, but that does always reflect badly on you when you phone it in, and things like that. But still, like, it's one of those things that, you know, we have to be cognizant of, and we have to keep the whole Anthem team on their, you know, on their game. Like, we have to be willing and ready to, you know, say, hey, this is bullshit, when they're doing something bullshit on TV. That's not what we want to see. We're going to tune out. you have been told, and then we have to tune out. We have to vote with our money and vote with our eyes. We cannot support these guys doing shit that, interferes with the actual TV product. If it interferes with the wrestling and interferes with like everything else that actually goes into building for the TV show, for the pay-per-views and everything else, if everything else is like just flowing on fine and whatnot, then that's all cool. I don't really care, but they need to remember, hey, let's figure out this whole thing. Let's not just sit here and, pretend we know wrestling. Even this guy apparently was working at Scoop or something, or whatever it was, the Scoop or something, and he brought in WWE talent or something, or maybe he was working with WWE in some capacity and got them on the Scoop, or whatever it was. I don't know. Like, the details aren't really there. I read them a little bit. He was something, blah, 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 WWE and the Scoop or whatever. Like, I'm like, cool. So, does this guy know anything about wrestling? Like, he doesn't need to, per se, but like, if you're going to be the president of the company, you need to know a little bit about wrestling, at least. You need to know that, hey, okay, I don't know sweet FA about wrestling. So that's my level of knowing about wrestling. I enjoy watching it and whatnot, or I enjoy it, and I think it's a good product, and I think it's one of our better products, or whatever. I just want to make it better, and I want to get it more accessible to more people, or I want to make more people who watch other things have more of a crossover interest in something, and sometimes that works really well. Like I say, like, I haven't really watched a lot of that other stuff because Access TV isn't a channel that's here because I'm in Australia, but still, like, it's one of those things. If you have that interest and you're going to see Kazarian on there, or Eric Young, or whoever on Vinyl Obsession, or whatever they're on, then it's like, oh, okay, we might hear about him, growing up as a kid, listening to Van Halen or whatever, and things like this, and, have a listen to some music, and that'll probably be pretty cool, and that sort of thing. I actually would like to see almost Rich Swann do it, because I think Rich Swann's pretty darn chill and pretty darn cool, and, he's pretty into music and that sort of thing, so that'd actually be kind of fun. I think he'd be a good fit for that, and whatnot. I think he's a easygoing guy, and he can talk to anyone and that sort of thing. So, and he has a lot of really great charisma. So, like, yeah, we will have to wait and see. Like, there's been a lot of news, and one of those things about news. And this is something that I've said on this channel over and over again. I don't really report on news, because by the time you report on something, especially when you're uploading things on YouTube and things like that, 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, an hour later, whatever, some other piece of news will come out. So it's really hard to keep on top of it and be like, well, I'm just going to do another video, or I'm just going to record another thing, because as soon as you get done with that, here's another piece of news, and another, like, it almost always happens that an hour later or whatever, here's another piece of news. Now I've got to record another piece and add that to the piece that I just was almost finished. Oh, and now here's another piece of news that, like, I've got to report on. So at a certain point, you've just got to say, no, I'm not going to report on the news, because it moves too quickly and moves too fast. Maybe once a week at a certain time I'll do it, and maybe I'll miss something, but unfortunately, like, it's just one of those things that it's so hard to do the news, because it's just like everything moves day to day so quickly and whatnot. And again, you're just going to miss something most of the time, and someone will say, oh, why didn't that piece of news get onto the episode? Well, it was because it was filmed before that piece of news came out, and I wasn't going to film another piece and put that up, because by the time that came up, another piece of news could have come out. So again, it's just you're always fighting the news influx sort of thing. So there could be something new that we don't know, or I don't know, or I haven't heard, or I haven't really delved into too deeply at at this point, but it's just not going to happen. Like, if people really want me to do news, I will do news, but again, like, you're going to have to live with the fact that, you know, like, I can only probably do it once a week or whatever it is, or, like, I can only do what I can do, and, well, if I miss something, well, I've missed it, and it's too late, so it might have to be next week, or maybe tomorrow if it's, like, super breaking news or whatever, but yeah, like, it isn't good. Like a lot of this isn't good from a perspective of stability and that sort of thing, and confidence in the brand, and that sort of thing. So I think it ruined a lot of confidence that was going into the new era of TNA. I think if they had have stayed the course, or just had have brought this guy in and said, hey, you know, we're going to have this guy, again, liaise, he's going to work with the talent here and work with, you know, Anthem more, and that then it would have worked fine, and then, you know, Face got out over a year period or something, not just like, oh, he's fired, he's gone, now here's this new guy. You're already starting on the wrong foot with everyone who's a fan of the product and the wrestlers and the staff that are involved, because they're all invested in what was and that sort of thing. As I said, we've already got connections, we've already got love for Scott, like, and it doesn't matter how much this guy cares or doesn't care about TNA or whatever, like just like same with Anthem, it doesn't matter how much they care or don't care about TNA, it's how much, like, the fans are really connected to each other. We're really connected to this brand and having to fight uphill our entire existence. You know, so again, this is another hill that we've got to fight up, but I hope to see good things. I hope for good things. If there's not good things, you know, at that point, then I will be saying, hey, you know, this is BS. What are you doing with the show? It's, you know, no longer an enjoyable show. You've messed it up. You've mucked it up. You need to stop doing this. Change what you're doing. Leave it to the people who actually know what they're doing. Leave it alone and just do your own thing and whatnot. So that's where we're at with this at the moment, I think. And that's where I think we're going to end this one pretty much here, because, like, I have repeated myself a bit, and that, but still, like, some things bear repeating and bear, like, this kind of information or this sort of chatter sometimes, that you need to get to the point of it and really need to drive certain things home. And, like, it doesn't take me away from, as long as it doesn't take me away from what happens, like, in the ring, the entertainment value of the TV show itself or whatever, then I don't care. Like, I don't care who runs the show, or whatever at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, Anthem does run the show at the end of the day, but, you know, we at least knew what we were going to get with Scott, and now we have everything flung up in the air and are just going to have to wait and see where things with Anthony, Sion, go, and that sort of thing. So we will wait and see. But yeah, like, if it's good, then we don't have anything to really complain about, because, like, the writers and the wrestlers still know what they're kind of doing and know where we're going and what we're doing. And as long as they're not interfering with that, and as long as the production goes up, or as long as the other things that they say that are going to be better or going to be more integrated with Anthem or Access TV and that sort of thing, do come to fruition, then that's fine. Like, again, like, if you say, I don't know who's on any of these shows, but I don't know, like Slash. Let's just say Slash, because I don't freaking know anyone. Let's say Slash is on one of these shows. Let's say that we're going to bring Slash in, and he's going to work a program up to Bound for Glory, and he's going to be in the Systems Corner, let's say. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Okay, cool. We're going to figure out how that's going to work. Slash is going to be in Josh Alexander's corner, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Again, that's what we're going to do. Okay, cool. Let's do it. And we go from there. You know, like if they say, hey, we want this guy or whatever, this girl, whoever involved in Impact TNA, cool. We'll figure that out then. Or we'll try to figure it out, you know, for Bound for Glory or whatever it is. Or we want this guy involved in Vinyl Obsession or whatever it is. Like, okay, we'll make that work or whatever. Or we want this guy for an interview. We want this for this. We want this for that. Like, I'm sure they've got their own news channel. I'm sure they've got their own different things on Access. I don't know what they have. Like I say, I don't have the channel and I don't tune into it. And I have no plans to into it. And I don't even think I could get it even if I wanted to. But still, like, I do watch TNA, and that's my interest. Like that's my interest in anything Access. The only interest I have in it, like, but yeah, like, and like, we've been saying this for a while. Like, I think, like, TNA is, like, one of the best products on Access. Like, it really is. Like, it's as good or almost as good as WWE and AEW most of the time. Like, perhaps not in production 100%, but like the wrestling, the storytelling, everything is there. Like, and if they got the production levels that AEW had, like, or WWE had, then again, they'd be at that level. So it wouldn't really be that much different. Like, it just would be a smaller promotion, like, at that point. And, like, we all want TNA to succeed. And if this brings more eyes to TNA at the end of the day, even if it's a bit of a rocky path to get there, then it's successful. Like, we can't argue with that, but we've got to wait and see what happens. Like, we don't know. Hopefully they won't make that mistake. And that's the thing. Hopefully they've learned from Tony Khan as well, even in the last year. Hey, look, these people that are outside of the wrestling thing, they don't get the wrestling thing. Even if they're fans, they might not get the wrestling thing. So let's just leave it to the wrestling people. But let's just, you know, have the reins a little bit tighter on things. That's what we want, because we want to make more profits. And if they're like, we think we can sell out an 1,000-seat arena every, you know, PLE. We think we can do that. We think we should be doing that. And we think that the TV should be, you know, a bigger show than what it was. And it certainly is bigger now than what it was a year or so ago, which is good. But also just, like, we need more, you know, we need more of that, like, look of things, or that, it, like, perception is reality type thing. Like, if it's seen to be so amazing and so good, like, look at all these people that are jam-packed in to an arena, and, like, that arena looked, like, amazing for Hard to Kill, and that's maybe why they're probably trying to do it again. I don't know. I think, like, they said, like, they were going to go to the Hammerstein Ballroom, but I think they know that the Vegas area there that they've already run was a decently good place to run. So hopefully they're trying to take it safely. So I'm not going to, you know, question them for that. But I guess they are trying to either beat or better the record that the team set before. But that's with everything. That's with everyone. They always want to do better than the previous regime. But, you know, it is what it is. But again, like, so I hope that some of this other stuff that they were planning doesn't really get changed, because, again, like, TNA has to move, and that's something that they started to do, like, before the pandemic, then it got stopped because of the pandemic, and then they started to do again after the pandemic. So they need to have shows here, there, and everywhere. They can't they need to find their hotbeds, certainly, and they do run a lot of the similar sort of areas and venues and whatnot, but they need to find the places that fans are going to buy the tickets. And if fans, buy more tickets and whatnot, and they see that it's working, or if it sells less tickets, or if people are tuning out and cancelling subscriptions, again, and there's a lot of backlash to it, then again, they're seeing that it's not working. So that's, again, we need to vote like that. We need to do those things when the show is bad, because if they interfere with the show and make it bad, we need to, vote with our feet. This just isn't what we want to see and whatnot, So we need to make those calls when it comes up, and just keep going with what we enjoy about TNA and keep it to the high standards that we want to keep it to. So that is that, and that is all I've got to really say on this one. Hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and hope you'll join me again in another one.